And first place, wow, almost 7 minutes faster than the second place winner with 1 hour, 9 minutes and 48-second time. Robert Mazzanti, congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, your Raleigh, Martin Marietta, City of Oaks half marathon winners. Thanks again to everybody. Enjoy the party. We'll be back in an hour to announce the marathon winners.
Today is Medal Monday. I ran the City of Oaks half marathon yesterday in Raleigh, North Carolina, and placed first overall. My official time was 1:09:48, which is a new PR by about 10 seconds from the DC half that I ran earlier this summer in 1:09:59, actually just breaking that sub 70 barrier for the first time. And you know, I think just looking at it, it's a really good show of improvement in fitness. Although it was only about 10 seconds, you know, the race was mid-September in DC. That course had about 100 feet of total elevation. So that was really nice, pancake flat, but it was warmer. So, you know, I think the temperature there was right around 60 degrees and pretty high humidity. If we look at some of the same variables for the City of Oaks, starting temperature was mid-40s, I believe it was 45 degrees, and got up to around 50, maybe low 50s at the finish. So temperature was warming up, but there's also a lot of shade on the course. So temperature really was perfect for the race. Humidity was still pretty high, 92% humidity and about 6 mile an hour wind. So there was a couple areas, one area in particular where I felt a little bit of headwind, but overall conditions were really beautiful for the race. But yeah, so kind of going over, I'll do a quick race recap. I'll kind of talk a little bit about my training from this past week, week 12 of the Richmond Marathon build, and then kind of give you a layout of what the last 2 weeks of the taper look like as we approach Richmond. Last week, I did a total of 101.8, so just under 102 miles for the week. On Monday, I did 9 miles in the morning, about 6 in the evening, just easy running. Tuesday, 10 miles total, just in one run. Wednesday, I did 17.5 miles in the morning. That was actually a fairly difficult workout where I did 10 times hill repeats. And this is the same course or same area where I do hill repeats where it's about 0.4 of a mile with about 100 feet of elevation. So I'm working at that at a fairly moderate, slightly maybe more aggressive than moderate paces as we kind of move along through that with each hill rep starting kind of moderate end, but finishing the last, let's say 2 or 3 a little bit harder. So that one had a total of 1,300 feet of elevation gain. So one of the biggest workouts I've done as far as elevation is concerned. And then just to warm up and cool down there. And then in the evening, I did a 4.5 mile run. So that was a big mileage day, about 22 miles in the day. On Thursday, I did a workout with Evan Leach, one of the best runners in Richmond. And I'll show you a little bit of that, but I did a 3 mile warm up, and then we did 3 by mile, and then 1,200 with a 2-minute rest in between each one of the intervals, and then a bonus mile. The miles we were hitting at about 5:15 pace, and then the 1200s we were looking at right around 5 flat. Actually 5 flat on the dot. Evan was very precise in his pacing. It's actually pretty incredible how quickly he can lock in and maintain a pace. So, you know, for me running, you know, my legs were a little fatigued. I was a little tired. So it was really nice having him there to pace. And, you know, it's one less thing for me to worry about, just to be able to run alongside somebody who's just really solid in knowing paces and being able to lock in. And then we did one final mile after 2 minutes rest at 5:05. So really good workout. I did have to work really hard in that one. So I was a little bit cautious going into, you know, the half marathon over the weekend just because of how difficult that one was. But kind of backing up, if we think about just a few days ago, I raced the Emerald Isle full marathon last Saturday on the 26th. So, that's just a few days out, doing the hill workout the day before, then going into the track workout. I mean, it's a lot of intensity there. But I was able to get through and was happy I was able to check the box on that one. Friday morning, I did 10 miles in the morning, another 5 in the evening. Saturday, 6 miles in the morning, and then I drove to Raleigh, did another 4 miles in Raleigh, a little shakeout, some strides. And then Sunday, that's race day in Raleigh. So brings us to the City of Oaks half. I did about a 2.5 mile warm up, then did about half mile worth of just stride, just kind of opening it up, letting it just check and see how my body felt. And my goal was to kind of lock in around 5:20 pace, and then just try to hold that really as long as I could throughout the race. So first mile went off without a hitch, did 5:13, 5:18 for the second. At this point, I had a pretty big lead over everybody else, but I honestly just wasn't really thinking about anyone else or the rest of the race. I was really just trying to lock in, run comfortably, run smooth and efficiently, and just really just trying to listen to see how my body felt. I think one thing worth noting is I don't know that I've ever ran a race where I looked at my watch less. I really tried to run this by feel, and part of it really was because of just the amount of elevation in this course. It's a lot easier to have a really prescribed pace range when it's a flat course. You can kind of lock in and use that as your gauge. But with this race, there was 625 feet of elevation for a half marathon. So it's a decent amount. And although there are areas where it's a sustained climb, a lot of it's rolling hills, so it's a lot of 20, 30 foot climbs over pretty short distances, and then a down, maybe a slight decrease on the other side. So you're getting some, a challenge on the uphill for sure, where you're challenged aerobically, really having to engage your legs. But then, you can open up your stride on the backside and maybe gain some of that. So instead of really worrying about my pace, where it was going to inevitably get a little slower on the uphills, but maybe I can catch up a little bit of that pace on the downhills, I really just tried to find, the right kind of effort level, and then just maintain that throughout, knowing that I've been doing the hill repeats, that I've been doing some of the track work, and that I could trust myself, I could get through this. And, rather than stay at a steady pace where I actually may not be able to run as fast, I can let that pace waver a little bit within a prescribed range, which for me, kind of looking over my splits, I was anywhere between a 4:45 pace on some of the more steep downhills and close to, high fives, almost 6 minutes a mile on some of the steeper inclines. So, I had over a minute range depending on where I was in the course. And I'm really glad that I did that, because I think I was able to race really well. So the next couple miles 3, 4, and 5, all pretty good. 5:17, 5:15, 5:08 on mile 5, so benefited from some downhill. So I was able to get through the rolling hill section, good downhill section, again, just still comfortably at that point. Then we got into probably the most difficult part of the race. So if you do run this race, I think the half marathon, just be ready for miles 6, 7, and 8. 6, there's a pretty big climb, and that one you definitely want to moderate some of your effort. And then there really isn't much decline on the backside of it. So you go from that into mile 7, which that was the hardest mile of the race, and it's just a steady incline of just about 100 feet, maybe a little over 100 feet. That was my slowest average mile at 5:37. This is where I think all that hill work, the hill work that I've been doing, the hill repeats really paid off. I felt really strong here. Of course I was working, but my form compared to when I ran the Virginia 10 miler, I could feel that my body was engaged differently. And then I was a lot more efficient in my running. And I think, if I have to point back to a couple things, and I definitely want to do a deep dive on my overall build going into Richmond, despite whatever happens, but one of the best things I think I've done is add in some of these hill repeats. Even though I'm not sprinting up the hills, it's really helped me improve my form. That's helped me not only hills, but I think just the rest of my running as well. So, as you think about how you want to train, or for things that you want to find ways to maybe improve your running form, or things you can do to improve overall as a runner, I think hills are one of the easiest things. Well, not necessarily easy, but I think they're one of the most simple things that you can do to add into your training and have one of the biggest gains in your fitness and efficiency. So anyway, I got through mile 7, pretty good. Mile 8 was again just kind of a steady grind, flat rolling with overall incline. Did that at a 5:27. Moving into 9, 9 was rolling a little bit as well, 5:23. Got into mile 10, which was also fairly difficult. You started off with a bit of a decline from the previous mile, but then from there it was a steady incline the rest of the way. Did a 5:23. I knew once I got to mile 10 that the rest of the race was going to be either downhill or flat. So I really just tried to take stock of how much energy I had at this point, how I was really feeling, and I wanted to really try to lock in and give as much as I could for those last few miles. So mile 11, I increased the pace a little bit, and part of it was just, allowing gravity to do some of the work, opening up my stride a little bit. And what I mean by that is I'm just kind of relaxing my legs a little bit, lifting my heel up a little bit higher, so I'm traveling a little bit quicker, and then just turning over my legs really quick. So really landing midfoot or even toe, and then just letting my legs go. So mile 11 and 12, moving pretty quick. I did a 5:09 on both of those miles. Mile 13, so I'm getting towards the end, and this is where you started to really see, the different races started to meet up, so there was a lot of support. Other runners were just incredible, cheering me on, as well as fans along the side, so you started to get some adrenaline. I knew that I was getting closer to the finish, so I really started to push, and I finished that mile 13 in 4:59, and still was, I was working hard, but still controlled, so I was really happy with that. And then as I came around for that last 400 meters, I dropped the pace down to, it was right around 4:38. So overall, really good. I finished the race, like I said, with a PR. As far as nutrition was concerned, I started this race the same way I do for all of my races. I did a Morton 320 caffeinated gel, a drink and I finished that about 2 hours before the race. And then I also had a gel about 15 minutes, a caffeinated 100 gel from Morton, 15 minutes before the race, and then at about 6 miles in, I did a regular non-caffeinated Morton 100. So those were the nutrition that I had going into it. I did a slight carb load the day before, and by carb load I just meant I kind of just shifted most of my calories coming from carbs. So I had pasta for dinner, no sauce, just salt, pepper, a little seasoning, that was it. But had some other things, just like pretzels and fruit, banana, bread throughout the day. So instead of eating more lean proteins like I normally do, or let's say a salad or just anything else, I just tried to get whatever I was eating, I made sure that the bulk of the calories or that it was carb heavy. And I think generally, if you're eating healthy, I don't think that there's a huge need to change things around very much. But I do think it's important to make sure that you just shift things slightly so you're going to that race topped off. But you also don't want to do too much where you feel heavy, bloated, or just not feeling good. So you want to feel light and energetic. That's the whole point of kind of dialing in that nutrition. All right, so I just finished a 4-mile shakeout, some strides here around Mine Creek Trail in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm in Raleigh for the City of Oaks Half Marathon, which I'll be running tomorrow morning. I drove down from Richmond a few hours ago, took about 3 hours, so it felt nice to get out of the car and get some movement in. I went, when I did get to Raleigh, I went straight to local middle school for a packet pickup and expo. So I was able to get my bib, t-shirt, and all those things, check into the hotel, and then immediately out here for my shakeout. So now it's just about recovering, getting back to the hotel, getting something to eat, and then doing a little bit of homework. I've got to look at the course elevation profile. Otherwise, it's just about recovering, getting a good night of sleep, and then going through the motions tomorrow morning to make sure that I'm ready to go once the gun goes off. So I just finished the City of Oaks Half Marathon. I finished first overall in 1:09:48. The race went really well overall. The temperature really was perfect, upper 40s, shaded for the most part. There are a few areas of sun, but The course had a little more elevation than I was expecting. I think it was right around 600 feet of elevation, maybe 650. So, I ran really well. It was a controlled effort. And I was, thinking about a little earlier this week when I did the workout on Thursday. I was struggling to hit, 5-minute, 5:15 pace. I had to work really hard. So coming out here today, just a few days later, I felt really strong, hitting, 5:15 pace, felt really comfortable. I finished that race working hard. Of course, I dropped down to, to push, especially the last 400 meters. But, I feel like I could have done a few more miles at that pace comfortably. So things are shaping up nicely heading into Richmond. Overall, great race, great crowd support. I want to thank everyone at the City of Oaks half marathon that made this possible. The lead vehicles, especially the guys on the bikes, they did a great job, clearing way, especially towards the end of the race when the half, the full, the 10K, everything was kind of converging into one. They did a great job clearing space, making room for me to get through and hold pace. So just really well-run race, a lot of fun, good crowd support, and again, it's hard to be upset when I was hitting a PR. So and a win overall. So this is back-to-back wins. Last week, winning Emerald Isle Marathon overall. This week, continuing momentum here with the City of Oaks half. Looking forward to another hard week of training coming up, and then getting closer to Richmond on November 16th.